Welcome to the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role as a catalyst in this transformative era.
What if I told you that you could double your revenue without working any harder? Businesses that switch from selling to solving see a 20 to 60% increase in conversions and can charge 10 to 30% more. Aren't you excited to hear about solving versus selling? So, sales teams feel better. They're seen as trusted advisors and have 25% higher productivity and greater job satisfaction. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you double your revenue while keeping your expenses the same, you don't just make twice as much. You could increase your discretionary income by nearly 8 times. By the end of this talk, I'll show you exactly how this works so you can implement these shifts immediately. Before sharing a bit about these shifts, let me introduce myself. My name is Stacy McPherson. I've given birth to 7 children and now have 5 grandkids, so I know a thing or two about managing chaos with a smile. My love for adventure has taken me around the world, living internationally for the last 10 years, making my home in Thailand, Israel, and Hungary, and most recently Hawaii, although that's not international. For the past 7 years, I've been running a thriving coaching business, helping professionals and entrepreneurs create real, lasting transformation. My business coach, JT Fox, calls me the happiest person on the planet. So I started out coaching one-on-one, then in groups, and then now I have a licensed team of coaches that use my method, my Happy Life Results method. Speaking of happy lives, my best-selling book, Happy Life Results, shares the principles that I live by. And I believe in turning back the clock, literally. Instead of aging, I'm reversing it. I have more energy than people half my age. I can do the splits, and I even can pull off a backflip on the trampoline. But my greatest success, I would say, would be my amazing marriage of more than 32 years. It's so strong, people mistake us for newlyweds. If you want to contact me, find me at stacymcpherson.com or my website, stacymcpherson.com. I know you're dying to find out about my 3 mindset shifts, so here we go. Mindset shift number 1. Most businesses leave money on the table because they focus on selling instead of solving. So picture this. You walk into Dr. Langley's office expecting the usual routine, checkup, questions, maybe even a prescription if needed. But before you can even settle in, he barely glances at you and launches into a rapid-fire sales pitch. So, I've got some fantastic options for you today, he says. Feeling sluggish? I've got an energy booster. Anxious? Oh, we've got this great new anti-anxiety med. Trouble sleeping? Oh, you'll love this one. It works like a dream. Literally. You blink. Well, actually, I came in because, hang on, he interrupts, flipping through a brochure. Maybe you'd prefer something more natural, herbal supplements, or a microdose of something trendy. You get to choose. Your head spins. Choose? Isn't he supposed to figure out what you need? I don't even know what's wrong yet, you stammer. This is traditional sales at its best. Now, contrast this with solving. Back in 1997, Apple was in serious trouble. It was lost in a sea of uninspired products and financial chaos. Then Steve Jobs returned. His first move wasn't about selling more computers, it was about solving real problems. He cut through the clutter, slashed unnecessary products, and asked one key question: what do people actually need? Jobs understood that Apple wasn't making machines, it was creating solutions. The shift that led to the new products, they didn't just compete with the products that were already there in the market. They changed how we live. Apple's turnaround wasn't about pushing products, it was about focusing on people. And instead of when you focus on what you solve instead of what you sell, that's where the real impact happens. So a good doctor asks a lot of questions so that they can understand what's going on before diagnosing. Likely you've experienced the good doctor where you felt heard and understood, and you felt like You were confident in your doctor so that he could help you solve your health concerns. So I have a challenge for you. Grab a pen and paper or a note-taking app on your phone. So write this down. Write down the biggest pain point your audience has, even before you think about what you sell. So a lot of times when people say, "What do you do?" or "What do what are your products?" you talk about what you sell instead of what you fix or what the problem is. So write down that big pain point that you fix for people. So I'll give you a second to write it down. Think about being the good doctor, not the typical salesperson. This shift alone can significantly boost your revenue. And remember how when I told the story of the doctor's office, that feeling of confusion, this leads us to our second mindset, clarity and focus. Confusion is the biggest reason potential clients don't buy. If they don't immediately understand what you do, they move on. So don't sell a product, sell a solution. Sarah Blakely stood in front of her mirror, frustrated. She had the perfect white pants for an upcoming party, but she couldn't get rid of the visible lines. She wanted a smooth, seamless look, but nothing on the market worked. That's where inspiration struck. Grabbing a pair of control top pantyhose, she cut off the feet and tried them on under her pants. Instant transformation. No lines, no bunching, just a flawless fit. Most people, they would have stopped there, but not Sarah. She knew that there were other women dealing with the same problem. So with only $5,000 in savings, she started developing a solution. Shapewear that smoothed without squeezing and stayed invisible under clothes and made women feel amazing. She had never worked in the fashion retail business. At the time, she was selling fax machines door to door. So when apartment store buyers brushed her off, she took matters into her own hands. She convinced a Neiman Marcus buyer by modeling Spanx in the bathroom. She said, I've invented something your customers are not going to want to live without. It's going to change the way they dress, and it's also going to help all of your sales associates sell more clothes." Then, when Oprah put Spanx on her favorite things list, it was game over. Sarah wasn't selling shapewear. She was solving a wardrobe problem women didn't even realize could be fixed. So in 2012, Forbes named her the youngest self-made billionaire. Refine your message so that even a 10-year-old could understand what you do and why it matters. When you're clear, your audience instantly sees the value, leading to higher conversions and premium pricing. When you can describe the problem better than your customer can, they assume you have the solution. That's the power of clarity. So some of you here today have attended my workshops and trainings, so you know I believe in hands-on experience when it comes to learning. I call it heart-centered sales because it's not about pushing a product or a service. It's about truly understanding and solving problems. And what's the best way to practice that? Putting people on the hot seat. One of my favorite exercises is called objection handling. And let me tell you, we really dive in. Here's how it works. We put someone on the hot seat, and their job is to communicate their offer. Sounds simple, right? But the rest of the group, their job is to interrupt with objections. And here's the catch. For the person on the hot seat, there's no countering with more data, no convincing, no defending. They can only do these two things. Number one, thank the person for their objection. And number two, ask a question. That's it. You'd be amazed what happens next. At first, people struggle. Their instinct is to sell, to explain why the objection isn't valid, or to list more features. But when they start truly listening and asking the right questions, the whole conversation shifts. The objections stop being roadblocks and start becoming opportunities. Because at its core, great sales, great relationships aren't about proving a point. And when you master that, you're not just selling, you're solving. Which leads us to number 3. This is the mindset that helps bring it all together. Alignment. Show up where your customers or your clients are. Most businesses struggle because they're trying to convince the wrong audience. Picture this. You're running a fast-moving startup. pouring everything you have into growing a business. You've got a solid product, an ambitious team, and great vision, but the number is not where they need to be. That was the reality for a company called Roblox. It was a company that helps businesses optimize their revenue. And their problem? Their sales process wasn't clicking. Cold emails were being ignored, prospects weren't engaging, so they tried something bold. Instead of sending another standard sales pitch, they started using personalized video messages, short, direct, and tailored to each prospect's pain points. The impact? 30% increase in sales conversions. That single shift from like generic outreach to personalized problem solving communication, it unlocked huge revenue growth. Sometimes the difference between struggling and thriving isn't working harder, it's aligning with your audience in a way that they actually want to engage. So, where are your ideal clients showing up? Be there, commit to showing up where they are. So, grab your pen and paper or your app for note taking and write down a place you think your clients are. So, go ahead and think about it. Where can you find your clients? When your message meets the right audience, selling becomes effortless. This is the revenue expansion formula. With these three simple shifts, you can increase conversions by up to 60% and raise prices by up to 30%. That alone doubles revenue. But here's the game changer, the one I mentioned at the beginning. If you double revenue while keeping your expenses the same, so think about this, if you have not a tangible product, but if you're more of a client based and have services, that your baseline stays the same. When you get that increase in discretionary income, it doesn't just double. It could grow nearly 8 times. So these shifts, they don't take months to implement. You can start today. So let me introduce you to Fred. Fred had an idea. He had a perfectly good car, and instead of letting it sit idle, he figured he could make some money by renting it out. So he grabbed his keys, drove down to a busy street, and parked near the corner. Hey, need a ride? He called to passing pedestrians. Most people ignored him. A few shot him skeptical looks and clutched their bags a little bit tighter. One person stopped and said, "Hey, how much?" And then they walked away when Fred kind of struggled and fumbled about the price. A few times he did get a taker. Negotiations were awkward. People wanted guarantees. How clean was the car? Was he insured? Was he safe? Every interaction took time, and after hours of hustling, Fred had made a grand total of not much. Then Mark showed up. He didn't just stand on the street corner. Instead, he tapped his phone and he opened up the Uber app and started driving. Within minutes, his first ride request came through. He picked a passenger who already knew the price, trusted the system, and paid seamlessly through the app. While Fred was still waving down strangers, Mark had completed 3 rides. By the time evening rush hit, Fred was exhausted and frustrated. His biggest win was a guy who'd haggled the price down so low it barely even covered the gas. On the other hand, Mark had spent his time efficiently racking up fares without the stress of selling every ride. By the end of the night, Fred shook his head. "Man, I worked just as hard as you did, maybe harder, but you made way more money." Mark smiled. "I didn't just work hard, I worked smart. Systems beat hustle every time." So before I personally made these shifts, I struggled a lot. Selling always felt awkward to me. I had to push myself every single time. It felt unnatural and even wrong. I felt like I shouldn't be charging them, kind of like it would take away the purity of what I was doing. And because of that, like Fred, I was exhausted, frustrated, and stuck. But then something changed. I stopped trying to sell and just started having conversations about what people needed. I asked better questions and I listened more. Instead of pushing, I guided them toward the solution they were already looking for. And when I did that, everything shifted. Not only did my business take off, but something more important happened. I started loving what I was doing. Instead of dreading conversations, I looked forward to them. Instead of feeling like I was asking for money, I realized I was offering transformation. In closing, let's bring it back to the 3 main shifts, the keys that can change everything for you. Number one, solve, don't sell. When you approach sales like a good doctor, approaching the problem, diagnosing the problem, people will trust you and they'll line up for the solution. Number two, get crystal clear. If your customers don't immediately understand your value, they'll move on. Clarity creates confidence. And number three, align with the right audience. When you show up where they already are looking, sales feels doesn't it stops feeling like a chase and starts feeling effortless. Will you keep selling or will you start solving? Because when you make these shifts, you're not just changing your business, you're changing your life. The choice is yours. Let's go solve some problems. Thank you.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session. As we transition to our next expert, remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.